All right, guys, welcome to the week today, the Great Lakes Emergency Preparedness Expo here at Birchland, Michigan. I want to thank you for coming out. I hope you're all having a great time. I'm glad to be here. We're going to go over some educational things today about bugging out. Hey, my name is Kaz. My website is kazvirtual.com, and thanks again for coming. I appreciate it. My presentation today is called The Threats Are Real, When to Bug Out. Now, before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a hunter and a fisherman. I've been practicing survival and bushcraft since 2009. I have a survival camp that is called Reservations. I have that every year in northern Michigan. It's near Frankfurt. While up there, we teach, we train, we share information, we build community. We build alliances and community based on survival and bushcraft. During a stuff hits the fan situation, community and alliances are going to be very, very important. If you plan to bug out, you're not going to do this alone. Again, my website is kazvirtual.com. I encourage you folks to go there. And you can subscribe, sign up, and there'll be updates on the website from time to time about bushcraft. I also have a YouTube channel called Kaz. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Before I get started, I'd like to ask the audience a couple of questions so I can get to know you folks as well. Who has practiced survival, prepping, and bushcraft for less than 2 years? Anybody less than 2 years? Thank you. How many of you have gone out to the forest and practiced survival and bushcraft for more than 3 consecutive days in a row, meaning more than just a weekend? Have you gone out for like a week or so? Great, thank you, appreciate that. We go out, we teach, we train, and I teach you, and I show you exactly how to survive in the woods. We go out, and we bug out train 7 days, 8 days, 7 nights. And as you can see, this is me, building a shelter, no tents. We have no running water, no running electricity, no running propane or gas. We literally go out to the woods, and I teach, we train, we do a lot of bushcrafting. It's all based on community. The threats are real. Today's purpose is to demonstrate and answer that question, when to bug out. I encourage you folks to take notes on your tablets or paper, whatever you have. My goal today is to give you some insight based on facts, not ideas and not thoughts, but facts and knowledge to make this decision of when to bug out a reality. What are the threats? Let's go over that first. We need to identify what we're looking at. A lot of people these days, including myself, talk about financial collapse. Our government is continually printing money. It's not backed by anything. It used to be backed by gold and silver. It's not backed by anything anymore. It's just a printing press. A fire approaching. Every summer we see it on the West Coast. There's fire on the West Coast. Washington State, Oregon, California, in the desert. Wipes out towns and villages. Every year we see it. Industrial accident. We live here in Michigan, a huge industrial state. How many times have we heard about a toxic spill on the freeway or something going on, a train derailment somewhere in the United States? You know, there's always that threat of an industrial accident. Natural disasters, we see this almost daily around the world, here in the United States, snowstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, all kinds of things like that. Nuclear disaster, this is an interesting one. You're going to have a lot of information on nuclear disaster. You know, the ones that come to your head is obviously Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, which happened in 2011. Which is still continuing on. It's amazing it's not covered in the news, but 4 of those reactors are still wide open today, leaking radiation daily. A pandemic. What about a pandemic? That's always a great topic. Man-made disaster. We talked about oil spills, things that can go wrong, you know, technological disasters. Terrorist attack. Look what just happened in Europe. We're talking about ISIS, things that are going on, Al-Qaeda. I have my opinion on that stuff, but today's not a political discussion. But terrorist attack, government breakdown, martial law. When things go wrong, they always seem to be declaring martial law or get the military in there. If you look at what happened in Katrina, that wasn't very friendly, wasn't very citizen friendly when things were going on like that, especially down there. And everyone's favorite, the zombie apocalypse. We're going to touch on that one too. We can't leave that one out. But in the 1960s, and in the 1980s, the United States had some major nuclear problems. The one that really comes to the forefront might be 3 Mile Island. That happened when Jimmy Carter was president. It was a huge deal in the 1980s, and they had a partial meltdown, if I do believe. They had a partial meltdown. The president went there to prove everything was okay. It was very, very scary at that time. And the nuclear industry and the nuclear power plants at that time were kind of new, not a whole lot of understanding what's going on. A lot of them were built in the 60s and the 50s, like the one we have in Detroit. And that's what I want to touch on next, is that who here realizes that in the 1960s, Detroit had a nuclear accident? How many people know that? How many people know we almost lost Detroit in the 1960s? There was a partial meltdown at the Fermi nuclear plant here in Monroe, Michigan. We almost lost Detroit because of fundamental breakdowns. What is scary about that is that the same reactors that are in Fukushima, Japan, are the exact same design that are here in Detroit. It is the exact same design. You're looking at the exact same problem. Let's talk about oil. Let's talk about the Enbridge spill in Kalamazoo. How many people remember the Enbridge spill that happened some years ago? I was an activist. I went there. I was seeing the oil firsthand. I did videos about it on my other YouTube channel. And I actually saw, it was literally standing on the water. It was devastating. Over 1 million gallons went into the Kalamazoo River, destroyed that river. And today, even today, it's still very questionable about how well they cleaned it up. They actually tried to hide a lot of it. The Enbridge crisis covered more than almost 20 miles of the Kalamazoo River, which devastated all the creeks and the streams that were associated with that. And yes, many people died, but definitely wasn't covered too much on the news. It was very localized. You didn't hear about a lot of it nationally or even regionally. It was just very, very local. I want to switch gears and talk about panic right now, because when situations happen, people panic. And that's one thing that you can't do when you're going to bug out. You need to be level-headed. You need to understand what's going on. Who is prepared? About 80% of the people in Michigan are not prepared. Who remembers the polar vortex in 2013? It was one of the coldest winters, the snowiest winters that we ever had. In fact, we rather set the snowfall record that year. This is a picture, or several pictures, from Meijer grocery store, the one that I shop at, 2 days prior to the polar vortex coming into the state of Michigan. I walked into the grocery store and I was like, what's going on, guys? And then I realized, and it hit me, the polar vortex is coming. And in every grocery store in the state of Michigan, every grocery store only has 3 days worth of food at any given time. 3 days worth of food at any given time. That's every grocery store. The reason why grocery stores don't run out is because that semi-truck comes every second day and they replenish the stock that's in that store. That's why the store never seems empty. But when those trucks can't come, that grocery store will be empty of literally every food product, every drinking product in 3 days. So why is that important? Because, like I said, 80% of the people are not prepared. Which is why you're in a panic situation, you have to plan. Do you have a burnout location? When something much more severe than just a snowstorm comes in, you need to have a plan of action. I mean, look at what happens when a snowstorm comes in. Now, what happens when something else happens? Nuclear, natural accident, industrial accident. The reason why it's so important that you have a bug out location, you need to go somewhere. I talk to a lot of people that I can pretty much tell who's ready and who's not by the answers that they give me. The most common answer I get, believe it or not, is I'm just going to hop in my 4x4 and I'm going to go live in the forest until it's all done. You and about 20,000 other people have that same idea. That is not a good plan. It's really not. There's a lot of things that have to go in deciding where your bug out location is going to be. How are you going to get there? Distance. Are you going to walk? Are you going to drive? Are you going to take your bicycle? And that's a legitimate way to get there. Another question is, do you have children? Do you have parents? Do you have pets? Do you have infants? Your group size and your group age is going to be critical when you bug out. It's going to be critical. For instance, think about it. A 1-hour drive by car. If you're going to walk that, it's going to take anywhere from 4 to 6 days to get there. You think about that. 4 days would be 15 miles a day with gear on your back. If you have children, if you have seniors, if you have people that you have to help along, you yourself, you may be physically fit, you may be a cross trainer, but is your senior citizen parents, are they fit? What if you have an infant that needs diaper changing every couple hours? What if you're nursing when you're bugging out? That 15 miles per day is going to be huge. 15 miles per day would take you 4 days to get to your bug out location. What if you don't make 15 miles? What if you only get 10 miles per day? Now you're looking at 6 days to travel 1 hour by car. My survival camp is in Frankfort, Michigan. It's a 4-hour drive. You're looking at 24 days on foot to get there. Also, things that you don't realize, what are you going to come across? Rivers? Lakes? Are you going to come across other people? Are you going to come across people who aren't ready? They see you have a bug out bag. They're hungry. Their children are hungry. Your children are fed. You've got to think about these things. Crossing rivers, lakes, other people, things like that. Let's recap real quick. What are you preparing for? You should be preparing for multi-level things, because once one crisis begins, it's probably going to lead into something else. For instance, nuclear power plants require maintenance consistently. If there's an emergency or some kind of situation where nuclear power plants can't get that daily, weekly, monthly maintenance, they're eventually going to go offline. And I hear the excuse, yeah, but CAS, they got a backup plan, they got backup power. They do, but that backup power is limited. It's not going to be there forever. It's not going to be there forever. Now, let's get real. The state of Michigan is beautiful, isn't it? Every time I do a show like this, it's just the craziness is like, wow, I just reiterate the fact of how serious this is. The thing about Michigan and the thing about Detroit is that we are limited in travel ways. If you can see, Detroit is by the water. And if we were to bug out from Detroit, there's only 154 degrees of travel that you can leave Detroit from. My point being is that you can't go northeast. Why would you go to Port Huron? You're locking yourself in. You can't go east. You're going right to Lake St. Clair. You can't go southeast. You're going to the heart of Detroit. You can't go due south because you're still going into the greater Detroit area, and you're eventually going to run into Canada and the Detroit River. There is only 154 degrees where you can actually leave the Tri-County area. 10% of the Tri-County area is 400,000 people. That's 100,000 people per area. Now, of those people, who are prepared? The statistics show 80% of the people are not ready for a bug out. They're not ready, they're not planned, they don't have a plan. What's even worse is that the oil companies are now shipping oil, and they have been shipping oil through a pipeline in Michigan since 1953. Does anybody know where that pipeline goes? Well, I'll tell you. This pipeline, it was built in 1953, and it's a 30-inch pipe, 30 inches in diameter. Okay? It starts here by the Michigan-Wisconsin border. It goes across the entire Upper Peninsula, and yes, it goes under the Mackinac Bridge. Yes, it goes under the bridge, through Lake Michigan, comes down across the state, and over to Sarnia. Every day, 22.7 million gallons of oil travel through that pipeline. Every day, and it was built in 1953. It is the original pipeline that they built. The company that built the pipeline is telling Michigan that it's still safe. How safe do you think it is really being built in 1953, using technology from 1953? It's pretty scary. So let's think about these red arrows. If that pipeline were to break, there's also another pipeline that goes south of Lake Michigan by 20 miles. It is within Lake Michigan by 20 miles, crosses 4 rivers that lead right into Lake Michigan. Imagine if these pipelines were to break. This state would be devastated. Regardless of wherever it broke, especially if it broke under the Mackinac Bridge, all 5 Great Lakes would be destroyed, all of them, within a matter of a day or two. No one knows how fast that oil is going to travel, but any oil is too much in the Great Lakes. So again, when a situation arises, we're looking at 100,000 people per red area. This is why it's important to have a bug-out location. And again, it raises the question, where are you going? Where are you planning on staying? Again, is the thumb area going to be able to take 100,000 people? Those people who are bugging out, limited resources, limited food, limited water, limited shelter. And what about the existing people? What about the people that are living there now? That's a lot of farm country. It's where I hunt. I hunt in Cass City. I'm up there all the time. I'm always looking around. What about those people? When they find out there's 100,000 people coming straight up, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think that they're going to defend their property? Do you think that when you get there, they're going to share what they have? How are they going to feel? How are they going to feel once they find out? Hey, you know what? There's 100,000 people because there's some catastrophe downstate. They're coming up into the thumb area. Do you think they may block off their main roads to their cities so we can't get up there? These are great questions you really need to think about. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario about bugging out. You know what? I'm set. I've got my bug out location all set. It's stocked. It's got food. It's got ammunition. Okay? You've got it all mapped out by foot. You're walking there. You got your family. You get there, and it's gone. Somebody looted it. Everything you have is gone. On the way there, the kids are crying, Dad, come on, Dad, we gotta get there. You got the daughter crying, oh, Daddy. And your wife, I'm really counting on you on this. The kids are, just kind of freaking out here. And then you get there, and it's gone. What do you do? How about this? Even worse. What if you get there and somebody is already occupying it? Now what do you do? Not gonna do it? Hey buddy, I've owned this for 20 years. This is mine. Mind leaving? Oh sure, no problem, sorry. You really think that's gonna happen? I don't think so. These are serious questions that you need to ask. Again, getting back to the time, group size, group age, when it's time to bug out. If you have a large family, and a lot of people live this way, they live multiple families, 2 and 3 families per home nowadays. It's coming very common again. When you decide to bug out because you and your wife and your 2 kids, the situation at hand is coming closer, when do you decide to go? And if you have pets, if you have senior citizens, do you decide to leave them behind? Because again, the age and size of your group is to determine how fast you move. You may be a cross trainer. You may be able to get there in 2 or 3 days. But what about your child that's in diapers? What about your adults, your senior citizen adults? How fast are they going to go? Keynote. You are only as fast as your slowest person. You are only as fast as your slowest person. Because you won't leave anybody behind. Another mental thought you must have. If you're leading in a large group, not everyone may make it. You don't know what you're going to encounter. You don't know what you're going to face. You have to have the mental thought. If we're leading with a group of 8, 10, 12, 15 people, not everyone may make it to the destination. You have to mentally prepare for that. It could be accident, it could be firefight, it could be, slip and fall into a river and drown. You don't know what's going to happen. This is why it's important to build community. This is why it's so important to build those alliances. If you have community and alliances along the way to your bug out location, when something happens where you're at, you can always call. Hey buddy, it's getting crazy down here. What's it look like up there? If you can make friends and alliances along the way of your bug out route, that is going to be critical. You will have places to stop and refuel, maybe catch a sleep for the night, maybe get some rest. This is why community is important. When you go to my website, you will see in the top banner, you will see survival in bushcraft based on community. When we teach and we train, it's not about me. It's about the group. It's about the community. I'm not going to be able to do this alone. You're not going to be able to do this alone. We are going to have to depend on alliances and community. So to answer the question, when do you run out? That's a tough answer. Unfortunately, it's an individual answer. The answer is when a situation at home gets too close for you and your family, and it challenges what you feel is safe. That's when you bug out. It may be soon enough to where you can leave by car. Depending on how quickly the situation arises is going to depend on when you make that decision. You also have to decide, do I leave my parents behind? My parents are still alive. My parents are in the late 70s, early 80s. I've already had this discussion with my parents. They've told me, take your kids and go. Just leave us some stuff, leave us here. If we don't make it, it's more important that you and your family go. We'll stay. We'll see what we can do. You've got to have this conversation. You have to understand, what if you are on daily medicine? My parents are both diabetic. They depend on insulin daily. What about medicine while you bug out? These are all things that you have to inventory. These are things that you have to think about day in and day out. All of the what ifs, because the what ifs are going to be really good friends with Murphy's Law. And we all know what Murphy's Law does. It's not fun. The one and really scariest thing about Michigan, it is a beautiful, beautiful state, but it is by far the most dangerous state in the nation. And here's why. We are surrounded by water. If there's something happening in Michigan, they can just simply cut us off at the bottom. Guess what? We're here to stay. You're going to swim across Lake Michigan? You're going to swim across Lake Superior? You're going to swim across Lake Huron to get to Canada with your family and your infants? I don't think so. What if they cut off from the thumb across and just seal off the upper northern part of Michigan? These are serious things that you have to talk about and understand. Michigan is by far one of the most dangerous states to live in because it is so vulnerable to being cut off from the rest of the nation. Even the Upper Peninsula. Oh man, that pipeline broke. Oh, sorry guys, you're on your own. You fix it yourself. So let's recap this whole idea. Things you will need to bug out. Number one, community and alliances. That's why I started this survival camp back in 2009. Every year I teach and train, I go out to the woods. And this year, there's going to be a lot more information on my website about it. This year, I set up an itinerary of what we're going to do, what we're going to teach, what we're going to train. But again, it's not about me. In that itinerary, it very clearly says you should come to camp with some things that you want to do also. And if you want to come to camp and you want to teach, you're more than welcome to. See, knowledge is key here. I'm not the end-all, be-all. You may know something that I don't, or you may know how to do something better than I do. If we are not always learning and always growing, then it's time to stop what we're doing. Again, like I referenced, my website clearly says it's based on community. And that's really what you'll find at Casper's Wild. It's based on community. We go out there, 8 days, 7 nights, no running water, no running gas or propane, no running electricity. You can use those things if you have them in a bug out situation. You know, we have people that bring mini solar panels so they can charge their phones and things like that. That's acceptable. If you can fit your bug out bag, great. Are you bringing the shade lounge and the folding tables? No, that's not allowed. We really frown upon that. If it's not going to fit your bug out bag and or get out a Dodge bag, that's what we're looking at. Okay, this isn't necessarily a camping trip. Map out several ways to your bug out location, including highways and on foot. And estimate the time it's going to take you to get there. 1 hour by car, 4 to 6 days. If you're from the Tri-County area, it took me 1 hour and 15 minutes to get here today. If I were to do that on foot, you're looking at anywhere between 6 to 9 days. How many rivers did we cross? How many people will we run into who are doing the same thing as you? And how many people are you going to run into that aren't ready? Another thing, are you going to travel during the day? Or are you going to travel during the night? And what are the disadvantages and advantages of both? Got to think about that. And don't assume you're going to get into your car and just drive there. We've all seen it on the news. Hurricane Katrina. There's 8 lanes going north on the freeway, and every lane is stopped because some goofball up there decided to smash up with everybody, and now the freeway is blocked. Imagine in 1963, when the nuclear meltdown was beginning in Detroit, and this was the scenario. We didn't have 10 million people back then. We probably had about 6. So imagine 100,000 people per arrow. It's kind of scary. Again, this is why I started my Casper's Wild Survival Camp. This year, we're really taking it to heart. I'm really putting a lot of things together. It's an itinerary, and there also is a liability form that you need to sign. So in case you cut your finger off, you can't sue me. Okay, I'm not going to be responsible for your negligence. Survival camp is really, really affordable. It's really easy to go. It's only $6 per day. It's $6 per day. If you come as a couple, it's $10 per couple. The reason why we do this is because we don't do it to make money. Obviously, I'm not making money on $6 per person. The reason is that we want to get people out there. We want to teach. We want to train. We want to educate you and show you how you can do this. The itinerary is very, very simple. The first day is setting up camp. The first thing is establishing an area, setting up your shelter, and setting up camp. Now again, I said, no tables, no folding cots, no this or that. We show you how to build a bushcraft table right from the forest. We set that up. We teach you how to build chairs right from the forest and how to build those efficiently. We built a chair 3 years ago. And I can go up there right now and I know I can still sit in it and it will still hold my weight. That's how well we do stuff up there. It's really intriguing. I really want to encourage you to come out this year. Go to my website, casverswild.com. The packet will be up there. It'll be a PDF file you can download. It'll have the itinerary. It'll have the liability form. It will have everything that you need to know about cost and how many days and all that good stuff. It's all there. $6 a day to save your life, I think is just a really simple cost. $6 per person, $10 per couple. Can't beat it. It's a lifetime worth of information. And like I said, if you want to come out and there's something that you want to teach, by all means, teach it. Because I am not the end-all, be-all. I'm just the guy who puts it together. So with that, if you folks have any questions, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. I myself would not bug out to the city. That's just my thinking. The reason why is, let's take the most recent hurricane, Hurricane Sandy, that hit New York City. You can go on YouTube and watch videos where people almost got into gunfights over water. I'm serious. I'm going to ask you a simple question, I'm not being sarcastic. Why would you bug out to the city? Exactly. Because you're... Correct. Exactly. They're going to go to the spot that's least populated and has the least amount of resources. Think about that. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Right. Some people are planning to call what's bugging in, and bugging in means that you stay where you're at. That you are going to hold the fort, you're going to hold your position. It's called bugging in. Each individual would be having their own set of diagrams and places that they would want to go. Since I live in the Tri-County area, I'm out of here. I'm like, see ya. You know, I'm heading north. I'm heading north. See, but here's the thing that you gotta understand, okay? There is no safe zone. In 2013, the nuclear power plant on the west coast of Michigan, in Lake Michigan, in 2013, dumped 80 gallons of radioactive water into Lake Michigan. Who knows that? 3 of you. Out of everybody here, only 3 people know that they dumped radioactive water into Lake Michigan. This is serious. This is very serious. I'm really proud that you guys are here. Because when I started finding all this stuff out, I have a family, I have parents. When I started finding all this stuff out, and what's the first thing I said when I started this, is every time I do this, my brain is working so fast that I just want to tell you so much information, but there's just limited time. But if you come to my Casbur's Wild, we'll have 8 days and 7 nights to discuss it. And that's the beauty of it. It's not about me. It's about the community and the alliances that we need to make. We are not going to do this on our own. We need to do this together. Whether you realize it or not, the government has a plan for you. You may not like that plan, but they do. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Okay, the question is what happened if the pipeline that comes across the other peninsula through the Strait of Michigan, rather, Strait of Mackinac, and then into the wetlands? Question was, where would that oil go? The answer is everywhere. It would go into your well. It would go into the farms. It would go into the protected wetlands. It would go literally everywhere. Research the Enbridge oil spill in Kalamazoo and research what it did. It was a million gallons into the Kalamazoo. That was a small line. This line I'm talking about, 22.7 million gallons daily. Yes, on Sunday too. 22.7 million gallons daily, every day. Let me give it to the Canadians. It goes to Sarnia. It's amazing. And don't forget about this one down here. 20 miles south of Lake Michigan, crosses 4 rivers, and all lead to Lake Michigan. My honest opinion, if this one broke, it would be worse than the one up here. If this one broke, we might be able to salvage Lake Michigan. If this one broke, the whole ecosystem is gone. Imagine what would happen with that. Any other questions? I want to thank you for my time, and I really want to encourage you to go to the website. The survival camp, like I said, is only $6 per person, $10 per couple. It's a fantastic camp. We just keep it very low and inexpensive. I mean, we're not making money here, but all we're doing is we're just trying to get you out there. We're just trying to show you.